Welcome to another episode. Today's question is, when I overthink, later it results into fear of the thing. How do I remove fear? So when I overthink about anything, it results in fear. And how do I remove that fear? That is the question. So what brings fear? The requirement for security and desire creates fear. You are afraid of losing, living in the present and planning for the future. That solves the problem. So you live in the present and plan for the future. Like material things you will have to plan. Plan for your savings. Plan for your career. Plan for your education. That is required. Psychological things need not be planned. Psychologically, you live in the present. So that solves the problem. We will see in detail with quotes from Osho and J.Krishnamurti. First, we will see from Heart Sutra by Osho. What is fear? First, fear is always around some desire. You want to become a famous man, the most famous man in the world, maybe you want to become. Then there is fear. If you cannot make it, if you don't become the most famous man, so you are afraid. Fear comes. So fear comes as a product of desire. You want to become the richest man in the world. And what if you don't succeed? The failure brings fear. You start trembling. You possess a woman, then you become afraid. Tomorrow you may not be able to keep her. She may go to somebody else. She is still alive. She can go. Only that woman don't go. She is still alive. You can possess only a corpse. Because human beings are alive, man or woman, their mind changes continuously, their interest changes. So you are afraid of losing this relationship, a man or woman. So when you try to possess a woman or a man, then the fear comes. Who knows? Your man or woman, yesterday they were not yours. Today they are yours. Tomorrow they may not be yours. Or at least the relationship may not be at the same level. So you are afraid of that. Fear arises. Fear is arising out of this desire to possess. It is a byproduct because you want to possess. If you don't want to possess, then there is no fear. If you don't have desire, then there is no fear. Desire of being like this or like that in future. If you don't want to go to heaven, then there is no fear. Then the priest cannot make you afraid. If you want to go to heaven, then you will have to listen to the priest. Do whatever he tells you. If you don't want to go anywhere, then nobody can make you afraid. If you start living in the moment, fear disappears. Fear comes through desire. So basically desire creates fear. Look into it. Whenever there is fear, see from where it comes. What desire is creating it. And then see the futility of it. How can you possess a woman or a man? It is such a silly, stupid idea. Only things can be possessed, not persons. A person is a freedom. A person is beautiful because of freedom. The bird is beautiful on the wing in the sky. You encage it, it is no longer the same bird. Remember, it looks like it, but it is no longer the same bird. Where is the sky? Where is the sun? Where are those wings? Where are those clouds? Where is that freedom on the wing? All have disappeared. This is not the same bird. You love a woman because she is a freedom. Then you encage her. Then you go to the law court and you get married. Then you make a beautiful, maybe a golden cage around her. studded with diamonds, but she is no longer the same woman. You have encaged her, her freedom is gone, her liveliness has gone. Now the fear comes. You are afraid because the woman may not like being in the cage. She may hanker for freedom again, and the freedom is the ultimate value. One cannot drop it. Man consists of freedom. Consciousness consists of freedom. So sooner or later, the woman will start feeling bored, fed up. She will start looking for somebody else. You are afraid. Your fear is coming because you want to possess. But why in the first place you want to possess? Then, if you are not possessive, then there is no fear. And when there is no fear, much of your energy that gets involved gets caught up, locked up in fear. The energy can become your creativity if you don't want to possess. It can become a dance, a celebration. You are afraid to die. Buddha says you cannot die because in the first place you are not there. The ego is not there. How can you die? Look into your being. Go deep into it. See who is there to die. And you will not find any ego there. Then there is no possibility of death. Only the idea of ego creates the fear of death. When there is no ego, there is no death. You are at a silence, deathlessness, eternity, not as you, but as an open sky, uncontaminated by any idea of I, of self, unbounded, undefined. So you are not an ego, a bound ego. You are unbounded, undefined, uncontaminated. If you understand that, then there is no fear. Fear comes because there are other things. We'll have to look into those things. Look into them, we'll start changing the things. So please don't ask how it can be mastered or killed. It is not to be mastered. It is not to be killed. It cannot be mastered and it cannot be killed. It can only be understood. Let understanding be your only law. So next we will see from Krishnamurti's talk in Zanen in 1967. So where there is pleasure, there is pain, inevitably leading to fear. Not only fear of great things like death, like fear of deep lonely isolation, fear of not being at all, but also at superficial levels. We have deep fears. Fear of isolation, being alone, and fear of not being at all. Not only that, we have superficial levels of fear also. The neighbor won't respect you, what he thinks about you, how the boss at office regards you, how your husband or wife regards you. The fear of not living up to the images that one has built on oneself. You create an image and you want to live up to that image. Then you have a fear of not living up to that image. The fear of not only of the unknown, but fear of the known. And all this fear is resolved, not by suppression, not by denial, but by understanding the whole structure of pleasure and pain and fear. For that understanding, there is required an awareness, which comes when you are looking at yourself. So when does this understanding come? When you start looking at yourself, the understanding comes. Then you resolve all the problems. Look at yourself as you are looking in a mirror. Because without self-knowing, that is knowing about yourself, pleasure and fear can never come to an end. The belief in that ideology has given you satisfaction and pleasure. And when that is taken away, you are left stranded, empty-handed, fear begins. So pleasure, you believe in an ideology that gives you satisfaction and pleasure. And when that is taken away, you are left stranded and empty-handed. Then the fear begins until you find another form of belief, another pleasure. Thought breeds through time. Not only fear of living, but the fear of death. Because death is something you don't know. Thought says, let us postpone it, avoid it. Keep it as far away as possible. but you are thinking about it. Pleasure is brought into being by thought, as thought brings into being fear. So pleasure is thought brought by the thought. Thought gives you the pleasure. The same thought brings you the fear. So it is the thought which creates all the problem. So find out about this. Self-aware. So with this, we will end this episode. Stay with me for another episode. Subscribe to my channel. Share this video. Thank you.